You're listening to a bored to death Mandocast, talking Disney Plus's show, The Mandalorian, in easily digestible chunks.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and other assorted gender assignations. Welcome back to the bored to death Mandocast. I am Jay Winger, and this week I am doing this solo. Chris is out of town visiting his relatives for the Thanksgiving holiday, taking all precautions, trying to stay safe as much as possible as it is these days, social distancing, wearing a mask, etc. Everybody should be doing that, but at any rate, back for episode 5 of season 2 of The Mandalorian. Last week in the siege, we started seeing some stuff going down. The Imperial Remnant is up to something. Moff Gideon is looking to get his hands on Baby Yoda's blood because it has a high M count. It's something that Chris and I missed as we were recording. Dr. Pershing mentioned in his hologram that the blood had a high M count. M, in this case, standing for midichlorians, that thing that we all hated that the prequels put in there. But at any rate, it's not entirely clear what their plan is to do with all of the blood that Baby Yoda has. It seems like they're trying to make a Snoke clone, and if that's not enough, Moff Gideon appears to be making more Death Troopers. I've seen some YouTube reactors calling them Dark Troopers, like from the Dark Forces games that were on PC back in the day. I don't know about that. They certainly do look more like the Death Troopers that we saw in the season 1 finale two-parter, and that we also saw in Rogue One. Bad news, whatever the case. Mando has touched base with Greef Karga and Cara Dune on Navarro. Cara Dune seems to be being courted by the New Republic, who want her help in dealing with whatever's going on in the Outer Rim. And she's, for the moment, saying no, but also seems to be wanting to get back out and fight because things have sort of calmed down on Navarro, and she is somebody that wants to fight. So, but while that's going on, Mando is still en route to the forest moon of Corvus, where he has been told there is a Jedi by the name of Ahsoka Tano. Now, Chapter 13, which I will be starting in just a little bit, the Disney Plus description says, "The Mandalorian journeys to a world ruled by a cruel magistrate who has made a powerful enemy." And from what I have seen online, the title of the episode is called The Jedi. Could very well be that this is when we will be seeing Ahsoka Tano. I say that, but I know for a fact we will be meeting Ahsoka Tano because as I record this, one of my friends has already seen it. Rode messaged me earlier asking what I thought of Ahsoka Tano in the episode, and I had to tell him I hadn't seen it yet. So, at any rate, time for that big moment we've been waiting for ever since they confirmed she was coming back in this season. When we get to the discussion, don't know how long it's necessarily going to go because I won't have Chris here to bounce my off of, but that about wraps up this intro, so I will see you after the binge.
Hey, while we're watching this episode, you should go ahead and toss us a like and subscribe. If you want to reach out, do it via our social media on Facebook or Twitter at BTD_Bingecast. The Bored to Death clan is part of the CKCC Radio podcast tribe, including J Bunny's Music Hub, the Race Nerd Podcast, Real Paranormal Talk, Ranking Tracks, Motivational Moves, Girls Who Like, and The Nerd Table. Imperial credits may not be worth much, but remember to support CKCC Radio on Patreon. I have spoken.
And I'm back, and yep, as I mentioned, my friends had accidentally spoiled it for me that this was going to be when we saw Ahsoka Tano. They wasted no time whatsoever. It was an excellent episode, Chapter 13, The Jedi, as... Well, the forest planet of Corvus don't have too much forest, at least in the part that we saw, because there's this magistrate, whom we later identify as Morgan Elspeth. The way the name was dropped makes me suspect that she's a significant character in some of the new canon, or maybe even somebody that was sort of brought in with from the old canon into the new canon. Can't say for certain. But basically, she lost a lot in the Clone Wars and then turned to shipbuilding for the Empire, plundering planets of their resources so they can build warships. And you can see that on Corvus. Whole lot of dead trees around. But the episode opens with Ahsoka Tano basically approaching the Magistrate's city and slicing her way through a bunch of soldiers in the midst of a dark sort of fog and everything. It further emphasizes just how terrifying it must have been to face Jedi on the field of battle, because she, kept to the shadows. She hid herself in the fog using her little force powers to trick people to looking the other way so she could get the drop on their buddies, and just, yeah, it was awesome. And from what we gathered from the brief conversation she had with the magistrate as she stood at the gates while she was under the guns of all the soldiers up on the wall, Ahsoka wants information, and the magistrate isn't interested in giving her any. Basically just sort of ignoring her, basically saying, how much is this information worth to you, because I can just kill these prisoners that I have here, or all three of them, or kill everybody in the village, because they don't mean a damn thing to me. Ahsoka gives her basically a day to think about it, and then Mando shows up with Baby Yoda, and Baby Yoda's basically playing with the little shiny knob from his gear shaft or whatever. And when they set out to town, we get a better look at one of the soldiers working for the magistrate. It's Michael Biehn, just playing some hired gun. And Mando's just basically like, I've been just following it, been tracking for days, just looking for a layover, although we know he's looking for information. And so they let him in, but nobody in town dares speak to him because they're all terrified of the magistrate. But then the magistrate basically summons Mando to come meet with her, and she basically wants to hire him as a bounty hunter and as a Mandalorian to hunt down this Jedi that's been plaguing her. And she offers as payment this staff that she has, sort of a spear really, but it's made of pure Beskar. She offers it as payment if he will kill the Jedi. And he just sort of like, we don't see him quite agree with it, but we know that he's probably not going to kill this Jedi, because sure enough, when he goes into the forest to look for her, they have a brief little altercation where we basically find out that Beskar, among its many properties, is also resistant to lightsabers, because it's the gauntlets on his arms that are the only thing that saves Mando from getting cut in half. And he quickly talks her down as soon as he gets the chance, just calls her by name and says, Bo-Katan sent me. And she takes one look at Baby Yoda and is like, I hope it's about him. And then we get, like, she just sort of sits sort of staring at him. There's no dialogue between the two, just them looking at one another before she just casually picks him up and then goes over to Mando, and we learn Baby Yoda's name. Baby Yoda's name is Grogu. And we find out that he was raised in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, or trained, I should say, in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, back before the Empire rose, and he was smuggled out of there when the Jedi Temple fell, and he doesn't really remember a whole lot about what happened since then, which is very convenient. He just sort of describes it as they just sort of describe it as like a dark time for him that he doesn't really remember, and that he's sort of suppressed his Force powers because it helped him hide from the Empire. Probably because you had Darth Vader going around killing people, hunting down any Jedi that escaped Order 66, and Ahsoka basically just wants to test to see how much of his Force powers he still has. They have a little like make the stone float to your hand, Baby Yoda, sort of thing. And he won't do it until she asks Mando to do it instead. And he offers the shiny gear knob, proves that he has it, and he still has his Force powers, but Ahsoka's like, I can't train him because he's still too afraid and too scared. And I've seen what such things can do to Jedis, even to the best of us. Yeah, she sort of did see it firsthand. And then, but he basically still needs. He's like, I can't keep him because I live a dangerous life, and he needs to be trained in these things so he doesn't go crazy or go bad with this sort of thing. She says, well, help me with my job, and I'll help you with you, and I'll help you. She wants to take down the magistrate. As he puts it, a Jedi and a Mandalorian working together, they'll never see it coming. Yep, they sure didn't. So we then got to see Ahsoka basically carve her way through a bunch of soldiers and a couple of assassin droids and Michael Biehn. Although Michael Biehn manages to avoid getting chopped up, but Mando shows up, helps rescue some of the prisoners, and while he stares down Michael Bihn's character, the two of them just sort of both with itchy trigger fingers and whatnot. Ahsoka confronts the magistrate. They have themselves a little samurai duel sort of thing. Ahsoka and her two white lightsabers, just like she had in Rebels, versus the magistrate and her Beskar staff. Magistrate actually holds her own pretty well, but she's as good as she is. She doesn't have the Force. Ahsoka does. Magistrate loses, and Ahsoka demands answers. She asks, "Where is your master?" And then she drops the bombshell. She says, "Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn?" Oh my God, I really wish Chris was here so I could see him marking out about it just the same way I did. Because there were a few other things in the episode, little callbacks to Ahsoka's backstory and other past Star Wars series. There was a Loth Cat that we spotted in the episode. Loth Cats were a type of creature that was introduced back in Star Wars Rebels because they were, I think, native to the planet Lothar, or Lothan, whatever it was called, the planet that Ezra Bridger was born on in Rebels. We saw a Loth Cat back in Season 1 on the Sanctuary planet, just very briefly, just chilling under a table and hissing at Baby Yoda. And this one was just there for a couple of cat scare moments for some of the soldiers. And as I saw it, I was thinking to myself, oh my God, are we about to see Ezra Bridger and the crew of the Ghost? We didn't, but the mere fact that they name-dropped Grand Admiral Thrawn tells us Thrawn survived the events of Rebels. And if he survived the events of Rebels, so did Ezra Bridger. Oh my God. Oh, this was just incredible, and I don't know what's going to happen next, but bing, bang, boom. Hired gun Michael Biehn is shot down by Mando. magistrate is defeated, the city is freed, and Ahsoka Tano again says, I can't take Grogu from you. Forgive me, although the child now has a name, I'm still probably going to keep calling him Baby Yoda, just like while we know the name of the Mandalorian, everybody still calls him the Mandalorian or Mando instead of Din Djarin. But, oh my God. But Ahsoka tells him, take him to the planet Tython. There's a temple there that has a strong connection to the Force. Take him up to the altar at the top, set him on it. He will let him reach out with the Force. If there are any Jedi out there, they should feel him and they will be drawn to him. Although she says there aren't many Jedi left. Well, we know that there's at least one. Luke Skywalker is still out there, and if they bring him in, oh my God. But this was a very, very big episode, not just because we got to see Ahsoka Tano, and Rosario Dawson did a fantastic job in the character. Dave Filoni did a great job writing the episode as well, as you would expect, since this episode, it deals with his character in Ahsoka. But the name drop of Grand Admiral Thrawn, which, and the fact that the magistrate was heavily involved in the shipbuilding industry for the Empire, says a lot about what she's probably doing for the Remnant right now. And it further confirms Moff Gideon, for all of his threat, is probably not the guy calling the shots. He is the heavy, the guy that is posing the most direct threat to our friends, or at least our main characters here, but he is not the main bad guy. Just like Vader wasn't the main bad guy in the Star Wars saga. This is going to be, oh my God, it is just, I don't really have the words, and I really wish I had Chris here so we could further bounce our words off of one another. This is just a huge step forward for the series, further tying it into Rebels. And so Mando now has another step in his quest. Not sure who else he could possibly get in touch with, but the problem is with making contact through the Force at a place that's strong, has a strong connection to it. There are other Force users out there besides Jedi. We know that that the Emperor is alive in some form or other out there, or at least they're in the process of cloning him. We don't know who else is out there. If there's any Imperial Inquisitors that might have survived the events of survived the fall of the Empire. My guess is there probably are. Furthermore, the idea of a temple, while we've seen plenty of Jedi temples in the new canon, with in Star Wars Rebels, the temples on Lothar were ones that allowed them to open up portals that could lead to various other places in the galaxy, and all of that sort of thing. I can't help but think of the temple from the Jedi Knight games. In like I said earlier, Dark Forces was essentially the first game in the Jedi Knight series that dealt with Kyle Katarn. But while Dark Forces was primarily just standard FPS, like Doom clone, but with instead of demons, it's Imperial stormtroopers and whatnot, and instead of shotguns and stuff like that, you're using like blasters. But the character of Kyle Katarn in Dark Forces 2 finds out that he has force powers, and you can develop them either way, light side or dark side. But the main villain rather is looking for this place called the Valley of the Jedi, which has a strong connection to the Force, and this evil, this Sith Lord essentially hopes to find it so that he can use it to increase his power, become the new emperor, sort of thing. The Valley of the Valley of the Jedi becomes important in the later games because the Imperial Remnant uses it to try to make some of its troops force sensitive. I don't know what specifically is going to happen, but I suspect the fact that Mando is going to go there is going to draw the Imperial Remnant there, because we can't forget he has a tracking device on his ship that he doesn't know about. Oh man, there is a whole lot to unpack about this, and it's probably something I'll talk about a lot with Chris when he gets back from his trip, and when we record our next episode of The Mandalorian, or record our next episode of the Bingecast, I should say. Mandocast. My brain is just fizzing right now, but there's a lot here. Very good episode. They did Ahsoka Tano justice here. Rosario Dawson did a fantastic job. Very, very curious to know what's going on. And it just occurs to me, the talk of from last episode, when Carson, the New Republic pilot, talks to Cara Dune about things going on in the Outer Rim and how they're all connected. I'm wondering if there's stuff going on that we don't know about that Thrawn is behind. There's so much going on with this episode. I love what they're doing with the writing and everything. Very looking forward to the next episode, seeing where this is all leading. Yeah, Mandalorian is probably the best thing to happen to Star Wars since anything, really. Sequel trilogy, while there were a lot of enjoyable parts to it, had some serious flaws. The lack of any real central direction that it was going in over the course of its run. But The Mandalorian sort of is exactly what the Star Wars saga needed. The Star Wars franchise really needed. So yeah, that I think is going to wrap this up. Not as long as our usual Mandocasts, but it's just me this time. Chris isn't here to talk with and keep this rolling a little bit. Next Mandocast might maybe be a bit longer. We'll have to see how things pan out with that, because with Chris returning from a trip that was on a plane, he may end up having to quarantine himself, in which case we'll figure something out, whether we do it via a Discord recording or something. We'll figure it out. But yeah, so another fantastic episode of The Mandalorian. Looking forward to next week. So for just me, but that about wraps it up. So yeah, see you next week. Keep watching The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. So I will see you next time. This is The Way.
Thanks for listening to a Bored to Death Mandocast. Be sure to check out all the episodes of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus and give us a like and subscribe. This is The Way.